All right, everyone. How are we doing? Hold on, let me connect my headphones. 3 minutes, pretty good. 3 minutes, not bad at all. Pretty respectable. Let me upload my podcast too while I'm at it. That was what I was getting off doing just a second ago before we started this. Let me do because I want to limit my late time, so I have to do the task I was doing before right now. Does that make sense? I could have waited till stream, or could have waited to finish this before starting stream, but this is just the way it has to be done now to limit how late I am. You guys get what I'm saying? All right. Kurakami Najimi says, I saw the change around 30 minutes ago. Well, I did it over an hour ago. So nice try, Kurakami Najimi. Let's see. I think I did it shortly before 7 p.m. EST. All right, hold on a second. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 50 on account of me being so on time. Let's see. What am I going to title this one? Hold on. Yeah, that's good. There we go. All right. Here we go. 4 late points. It's 3. You guys can't count. All right. Yeah, gotta add 3. Pull now. Thanks a lot. When is the Wano analysis timeline? I'm done giving you guys timelines because I never succeed in living up to them. So no timelines. Tom says, Morj, where's the chat command? So it should work. I should be able to do exclamation and link, but it doesn't work. Hold on. Let me send a reminder thing. Hold on. All right. It should work. You know what? I'll just link it myself. Let's see. Android with AirPods is crazy, says RRB. Hey, listen, this was not my decision. I was gifted these. My girlfriend gifted me these a little bit. It was an early Christmas gift, basically. And initially, for the longest time, I had these shitty headphones because I thought that's all I needed. I thought I didn't see the purpose of. I didn't understand why anybody would ever use AirPods. I was like, that seems expensive and dumb. So I never got those because I just figured my nice shitty headphones would do the trick. And then ever since I've used these AirPods, I've realized that I was completely wrong. It's so much nicer. It's so much better. You can I don't even know how to explain. I can't imagine going back. Before it just seemed so natural to have shitty headphones. Now I'm just like, I can't imagine life with shitty headphones again. I will say, I know that iPhone is better for these, but I'm not switching off Android, I don't think, because I don't know. It's what I'm used to. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you want the posters, you can hit the link at the top. You can get any of those posters. You can get all 4 of them together for 50% off every poster. So we got Fishman Island, Elbaf Village. Here, let me share it for y'all. It's obviously the posters in the back on the top row. You guys can still get them for the rest of January. So Fishman Island, Elbaf Village, Saboti Archipelago, and Witheria. And Witheria I like because we did the psychedelic style. Fishman Island, we went with the watercolor. Elbaf, if you check out how the castle's done, it's in a totally different style than the rest of the artwork. And then Saboti Archipelago has the best depiction of sunlight that we've done in any of these posters because obviously sunlight's really, really fucking important to that island. So, yeah, they're all available. You guys can hit the link at the top to get them. And, yeah, let me see real quick. Let me pull up the late penalties before I forget. Let's get this part out of the way. Here we go. I'm going to add 3. Akash Panda, I see you, man. Let me give me a second here to get oriented. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. Current point total is now going up to 113. So we're getting it. I'm gonna really try and stifle it going forward. I don't want to get into the 150s. That's for sure. So I'm really gonna try and stifle it. This is good incentive for me to really be on time. If you guys want to spend some points, we'll vote on that this stream, obviously. Current plan for Morj's next watches / reads. Sakamoto Days, continuing it. Oh, I fucking forgot about this. Oh, yeah. I'm currently doing this. I'm currently on this. Mob Psycho just finished season 1. I enjoyed it. Best character so far is definitely the fake psychic dude, Reagan. That guy's hilarious. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 for me trying Sakamoto Days. Yeah, I'll keep this stuff up as just a nice little reminder of what I got next up on my list. All right. Oh, I guess I should keep this up, right? Because we're going to get into the lore. We're going to get into the lore stuff. Here. All right. Board or dock? What do I normally do board. Okay. Let me catch up on supers real quick. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. Adding my theory from last stream, Akash Panda was dropping some gems last stream. Both Void Centuries contained huge wars that ended with new established gods who then settled on the Red Line. Interesting. During the first Void Century, 1500 years ago, Lunarians and others invaded Earth. One became gods and settled on the Red Line. World government did the same thing after second Void Century. So the Lunarians suck then, huh? I'm trying to fit in where the rest of the Skypeans come in here. Let's see. Plastic Cola, that's an interesting idea. Plastic Cola, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member. Thank you very, very much. You are, of course, now welcome to check out all of the previous Pirate King podcasts, which are the longest form podcasts that I have. They're all like an hour and a half long. They cover a bunch of topics that are not One Piece related. And at the end of the month, you can submit your own questions to the Pirate King podcast to get anything that you want answered very, very in-depth. One Piece, not One Piece, other anime, movies, manga, live action, etc. All of that, real life, all of that stuff. It all gets answered in the Pirate King podcast. For whom, thanks a lot. You're buffering a lot. Wait, what? I really shouldn't be. You're buffering a lot? I'm sorry about that. Let me know if that's happening, but maybe that's just a you thing. I don't know. Oh, TomTom says Morj. I'm talking about the Morj points command. Shit. Let me add that as a note, too. Here, hold on. Let me add that as a note. Also going... Okay. All right. Fading Face, thanks for the 2. Thanks for the 2. Hey, Morj, how far are you into Mob Psycho at the moment? Oh, so I just actually answered that. I am, I guess I'm a little behind supers. I'm just finished season 1. Literally just finished season 1. And I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. Characters are fun. It's consistently funny. Similar style of humor to One Punch Man, it feels. It's consistently funny. Better writing. And animation style, it was hit or miss for me at first, but I got used to it. I think it does the action scenes very well, and then everything else, it hits a nice tone. So, definitely enjoyed that. I think the writing is up and down in terms of when it goes serious. It's usually solid and sometimes very good, if that makes sense. And that's all I really need. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. What if Emu is greater than 1500 years old? He was defeated by the first Nika user, Lunarian, bided his time, defeated the second Nika, now Joy Boy. Now Luffy must defeat him for good. I don't think he defeated the second Nika in straight combat, but he might have gotten the better of him overall. But I could see that. Like, if Emu's just been this recurring, long-running villain for God knows how long, I could definitely imagine that. Because I'm just like, why do they need to go so far back in time, right? Why do they need to go so far back in time to have 2 Void Centuries other than to just show the idea of cycles, you know? I'm curious. Blazing Blue, thanks for the 5. Adding to Kosh Panda, I wonder if the Lunarians established their rule by creating the red line, similar to Emu and the world government flooding the world. I love that. That's a really, really good possibility. That's a really interesting possibility. So each time the One Piece world is each time something happens to reshape it in some way, shape, or form. Reshape, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean. I like that a lot. If that's the central crux of... Hold on. Because I imagine that whenever Luffy's time comes, he will essentially... I feel like when... Hey, quiet! I feel like when Luffy's time comes, he'll... it's going to lead to something like the unflooding of the sea in some sense, so creating a brand new open world, and I feel like the destruction of the Red Line still follows. JWP, thanks for the 2. Yeah, Reagan is my favorite character from Mob. Yeah, he's a phenomenal character. Poster fell again? Why does that keep falling? If you want to buy that one, just because it keeps falling, so it's hard for you guys to see it, you can obviously hit the link at the top. Do you think it's... Nile Show, thanks for the 5. Do you think it's possible Enma is still giving Zoro problems, passively draining Haki, making things / fights harder for him? No, I don't think so. I think Zoro should be fine with that, as far as we can tell. Let's see if it sticks. Hopefully that time. I think I'm being lazy. I'm not reapplying the tape. Kosh, just read the chat. What do I have to read? What am I reading? Oh, the poster? Yeah. We got to back up. Tom says, Morj, you aren't buffering for most people. Okay, it's all good. Gosh, Panda, thanks for the 5. Second theory, Emmet moved 200 years ago. Nika fruit awakened 200 years ago. Was the second destruction 200 years ago? That's when the fishmen rose up. Maybe related. So the world's been destroyed twice? I don't know about that one. Let's get the likes up to 50. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to consolidate stuff. We're going to consolidate ideas. I prefer the previous idea of like a void century before the void century. All right? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull out the old One Piece wiki timeline. I don't know how accurate this One Piece wiki world timeline is. I just don't know. All right? I don't know how reliable this is. One Piece wiki stuff is... It's usually good as long as it's sourced. All right? 2 calendar systems are known to exist in the world. They're the Age of the Sea Circle and the Age of Heaven. This is what Akash Panda talked about last time. Let's see. Nami reads Nolan's logbook. Okay, hold on. We're doing a deep dive here. So there's not going to be any sort of, what do you call? Messing around. Okay? Deep dive stuff only. Hold on. Here's the most efficient way to do this. Let me do everything with max efficiency. Let's see. Okay, here we go. First of all, I have a feeling I would rather use Microsoft Paint for this. I want to use Microsoft Paint. I feel like Whimsical will limit my creativity. I want to use Microsoft Paint. Let's try it with Whimsical first and see what happens, okay? So, let's start with this. Age of Sea Circle and Age of Heaven. Interesting. Note, this information would be false due to circumstances at the time of Robin telling it. Hold on. Okay, let's see. So let's start with this. Let's start with just the basic concepts of the timelines that we have. 228. Here we go. Monte, thanks to the 5. The Age of Sea Circle calendar system might have been marked by the creation of the Calm Belt. What else could Sea Circle mean but Calm Belt? Could it not mean Grand Line? Okay, let's see. We're doing a deep dive today, okay? So we got 2 calendars. Let's see. What page does Nami talk about this shit? We got a page? Nah, it's just... Alright, lookbook. Where's the logbook at? Okay. Year 1120 of the marine calendar. Karenkai means... Kainreki means age of sea circle, okay? And then we're looking at the other one, 203, Robin's explanation. Okay. 239 of Heaven's calendar. 239, 260. Okay, hold on. Around 400 years ago, dated around during the year 1120. It still doesn't make sense to me why there is so little information from before the Void Century as well, especially if the world was totally different. Cannot be matched with the world timeline as no other point of reference is given. Okay, hold on. Let me just skim this first. 5,000 years ago, Tree of Knowledge was planted. 4,000 years ago, Palace of Alberta was built. This is the possible beginning of the age of the sea circle. Sea circle calendar. Okay, makes sense. Interestingly, the quarrel between them begins here. Let me read 884 now. Sorry. I need to process. I'll try and be more interactive as we go. Akash Panda. Is my screen off? Oh my god. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Here we go. So here's what let me fill you guys in on what I'm looking at, okay? So, sorry about that. Here we go. So, I was looking at Age of Sea Circle and the Age of Heaven. Okay, Age of Sea Circle, Age of Heaven. These are things that Akash Panda talked about yesterday. The thing about the Age of Heaven is that there's not any other reference to it outside of when Robin was talking about it in Alabasta. So if we look at Age of Heaven, it's talked about here. Okay, it's only talked about here. Year 239, year 260, blah 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 blah. So that all goes from here. Hey, Harley, no. I think we can assume that if it's Heaven's calendar, right, it's coming post-Void Century just because poneglyphs came post-Void Century, right? Now, the Age of the Sea Circle is different from what it goes... Year 1120, right? According to the One Piece wiki, it appears that this was about 400 years... well, I mean, it says 400 years ago, right? So year 1120, so right now they're about in the 1500s, right? That's interesting to me because if there was a Void Century... That's interesting because if there was a Void Century... If it's the cycle of... Hold on. Here we go. All right, let me illustrate this, right? So, Void Century 1. Okay? So let's say that's year -100 to 0. Okay? Void Century 1. Year -100 to 0. then calendar C circle calendar begins, right? C circle calendar begins. Tell me I'm sharing right now, right? Am I sharing? Okay. C circle calendar begins around here. So 0 to... We're currently in the age, currently about, currently we're about, let's say, 1500 years in, okay? Currently about 1500 years in. 800 years ago, void century. So 800 years ago to 900 years ago is when the void century happened. Void century equals 800 to 900 years ago. Therefore, basically, void century was from between the years, what, 600 to 700, right? Year 600 to 700. Is that right? Void century would be years 600 to 700. And then after that, we get 800 years of knowledge. Correct? Am I off on the timeline at all here? Or was the void... Can someone correct me? Is the void century... Here, let's check this here again. 900 years ago, void century begins. So this is covering that. Okay, so 900 years ago, void century begins. So that's around year 600, right? So then prior to that, if we go back another... No, because then the previous void century would have been... So the cycle doesn't really add up, right? Unless Oda did the math wrong. Because if you go back... basically, then that means that the previous void century might have been... begins year 0. So then maybe the previous cycle was 600 years or something like that. Ancient Kingdom era. Year 0 to year 600. Void Century, 600 to 700. Void Century 1. It would add up better if... Because Nami said this was an approximation. A 400-year-old diary. So, like, 400 years can be... I don't know. It's an approximation. I don't know. There is no void before Emu. Let's see. Let me catch up on the supers real quick. Kosh Panda, thanks for the 5, man. I know you don't want Wiper in the final war, but I want him to play some role because his ancestors died protecting the Poneglyph from world government on Jaya. The only reason I don't want Wiper in the final war is just because I feel like it's going to be disrespectful to his character. You know what I mean? Like, his character is so great, and his character in Skypiea was basically Luffy's equal, was the concept. And the problem is just that he's not going to have been training, you know? Like, I mean... He's likely training, but not like the way that they've been training downstairs. You know, downstairs they've been trained to like get the One Piece. Like Wiper's whole world's conflict has been resolved. You know, so it's not going to be quite the same thing. His ancestors died protecting the Poneglyph from the world government on Jaya. I don't know. I feel like it's just going to be embarrassing seeing Wiper because like. There's two ways you can do it, right? Either Wiper comes down and he's exactly the same as he was during the Skypiea arc, in which case he's fucking fodder that's weaker than, like, random, like, Corridor Coliseum characters. Or Oda does some lip service in that he makes Wiper have trained to, like, Yonko Commander level or something, and then it's just like, dude, that's not what Wiper is. Wiper's supposed to be so much more than that, you know? Like, it's like he halfway trained or something. Or Oda plays it true to what Wiper should be, and Wiper shows up as this motherfucking like Yonko level character that's like comparable to Luffy. But Oda's not going to do that because that would screw with things too much. I just don't feel like there's a good way to do it. Anime Dimension, thanks for 2. Read Library of Ohara's One Piece timeline. Okay, let me check that out. Is it like super up to date? Arthur One Piece timeline. Shouts to Arthur for doing projects like this, man. JWP, thanks for the 20, man. Thoughts on Nika or the sun god being a Lunarian? They lived in the sky and can literally control fire. Oda also introduced them at the same time as when we started pushing Gear 5th. Makes sense since Ace was a false sun god. Here's the thing. I don't think that the sun god, I don't think there's a real Nika in the story. I think that Oda almost went out of his way through Vegapunk's speech to spell out to the reader that whether Nika exists or doesn't exist is not the point. That's not... I don't think that we're supposed to be getting into what is the correct religion in One Piece. It's just... The idea is more so that the dreams of people, what people believe in, can manifest in reality. It's the power of dreams. I don't think we're ever... I might be wrong, but I don't think we're ever going to... Hey, Harley! Stop! Harley is always the bad one. Casey never does anything bad. Harley is always the one. He's the instigator. God damn it. So, I feel like... I'll put that up in a second. I feel like... I'm not even going to try and theorize like on what Nika is or isn't, because it just opens up such a can of worms. It's like, okay, does that mean that at some point we're going to see Nika fucking come down from the heavens and fuck everybody up or something like that, or do something? I think it screws with too much in the One Piece story if we start figuring out, like, okay, so if Nika's real, then is Buddha, like Sengoku's Buddha form, is that also supposed to be real or whatever? Like, enough people believed in it, so is that like a valid religion or something like that? Like, I think it messes with too much as far as I can tell. So I feel like Vegapunk gave that speech just to be very clear to the One Piece readers that it's not about whether or not Nika is real. It's just like, this is the belief system of the people in One Piece, and essentially Luffy is Nika. Like, Luffy is the god that exists. Like, this is the manifestation of the god, because that's what devil fruits are. If you believe enough, it's real. It doesn't matter if it was originally real or not. So I'm not interested in trying to figure out what was the real Nika like, or what race was he, or something like that, because it just seems antithetical to what Oda specifically told us to think about the situation and how he's trying to mold the story. That's my view on it at the moment. Here, let me put this back up. If it comes down one more time, I'll put real tape on it. New tape. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Anime Dimension. Okay, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm reading it. Monte, thanks for the 5. Sea Circle means Calm Belt being created because you need the Calm Belt to get the Grand Line. The Calm Belt physically defines the Grand Line. Okay, if that's the definition of it, I see that. That makes sense. So, Calm Belt, Grand Line, etc. being created. I could see that. That makes sense. At the same time, you could also argue the Sea Circle could be the Red Line, because the Red Line is also a circle that goes around the sea. I don't know if you would call it a sea circle or not. Vinny, thanks for the 8. Finally caught stream, but if you're playing games at the moment, but definitely recommend PoE2. Fighting, leveling up, feels like it'd be up your alley for real. What is it called? Is it just called PoE2? Po2? Or is that an acronym? Ursaliath, thanks for the... Ursaliath. What's with the name change? Thanks for the 5. If Nika does really exist, I hope he doesn't have Gear 5th powers. I hope that he's just some great warrior, and everything else is people making things up. I just don't know if Oda's going to actually bring gods and stuff into the story. I feel like ultimately this is more so just a venue for him to have the Devil Fruit abilities that he wants to have in the story. And have contrasting, like, god-level Devil Fruits, basically, and just have contrasting versions of them. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Oh, actually, you know what? I forgot to do one thing very, very important. Forgot to do one thing very important. Very important. Here we go. All right, I'm pulling it up. I want to read the official translation. And then you Japanese readers can also... I'm not reading the full chapter, okay? I'm just reading a couple things. I want to read the Nika section. And then you Japanese readers can also tell me where Stiff and Paul fucked up and everything. Sun God. Don't be a fool. The Sun God isn't a ruler. Hold on. Okay. You don't understand that was a dream that's held by... Okay. The next time he tries something, you just go ahead and do that. My God, this is humiliating. You don't understand that was a dream that's held by everyone in Elbaf. We all wish to be the sun god and rule the world. Sun god. Don't be a fool. The sun god isn't a ruler. Yeah, he's the god of liberation. No, a god of destruction. Wrong. He's a god of laughter. So you could argue that there's 4 interpretations of the sun god that are put out right here, right? The world has been destroyed, twice been destroyed in the past. In each case, the presence of Nika, the sun god, is closely tied to it. He's the hero who appeared to save the world from disaster. So you could argue that there's a dichotomy being pushed here, or you could argue that there's 4 different interpretations being pushed here. For me, if it's 3, it fits more, or 2, it fits more. When you start splitting it into 4, it's a little bit like... Because I feel like if I were to describe... Luffy does not fit this, right? Sun God isn't a ruler. He does fit this, and he technically fits this. And the idea that Luffy destroys to free is like a recurring idea in the story. Okay. Food for thought for the future. Think about that in general later. Okay. All right. Leaving that. Okay, let's take a look at this shit. Okay. Era of dinosaurs, blah, blah, blah. Ancient history, 4,000 years ago. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So sky calendar supposedly uses a calendar in ancient times. Okay. Year 0. Sometime before the 400s. Okay. Winged hominids, called by some as angels, colonized the moon and found the city of Birka. Civilization thrives with their advanced technology, etc. Sometime before the 400s, due to lack of natural resources, okay, people leave for the planet below. So this all happens sometime before the 400s. So, could it be sometime before the 400s? I'm just trying to think in terms of cycles. So, to me, as far as I can tell, this era is good. Right? This era is good. Can I give this a specific color? Will that change changes everything's color. Let's just do back to black. Oh my god. Oh no. How do I reverse that? Okay, this is good. This lets me do it from scratch. All right. So this way we can do separate colors. All right. Year. Okay. So I personally believe prior to year 0 equals world destroyed. All right. So void century number 1 equals you guess you could say 100 BC to year 0. All right. Year 0. Heaven's calendar. Which calendar begins? Heaven's calendar or sea circle calendar? Sea circle calendar begins. Sea circle calendar begins. Okay. Oh my god. Then this is a good era as far as we can tell, right? This is a good era because in this era, ancient kingdom era, year 0 to year 600. Okay. And then we get void century number 2. To be fair, this is an assumption, right? There wasn't necessarily a void century here. We don't know that. But let's wait and see. Void century number 2. I guess I'll make this red. Equals 600 to 700, right? And then we get celestial dragon era. Start of heaven's calendar? Question mark? Equals And then this is a bad era, right? So bad era, let's put it in purple or something like that. Not that purple's that bad, but you guys get what I'm saying. 700 to 1500-ish. Okay? I'm going to change this color as well. Here. Okay. 0 to 600. And I feel like this is when, yeah, year 0 to 600, start a C circle calendar, probably, right? Okay. And then before this, so then the question is, what was before this? My feeling is possibly a bad era before this. Possibly bad era before this. Because then that way you've got a couple cycles, right? So you got cycle number 1. So you got bad cycle, void century, good cycle, void century, bad cycle, and then you got one more bout of destruction, right? So let's change this. Let's add in Joy Boy's pieces. Joy Boy fucks shit up. All right? And then right here for void century number 1, we know Joy Boy fucks shit up, but he doesn't like quite succeed, right? At the end of the day, Celestial Dragons win. Joy Boy fucks shit up. I should say Nika. I'm going to say Nika, fruit user. Nika, fruit user. Cycle, okay. So I personally feel like the era that follows can tell us a little bit about what happened, right? Because, so for example, we know what's coming is Nika, fruit user, fuck shit up, Luffy this time. And we know that this time around, it's going to lead to good era, right? So if it's going cyclical, and sometimes people feel like the Nika fruit user leads to a good era, and sometimes they lead to a bad era, then could it have been bad? Then Nika fruit user wins. Then good era, Ancient Kingdom era. This is a bad assumption. I don't know if there was a void century before this, right? So let's get rid of the assumption that there's a void century. Let's get rid of the assumption that there was a void century, because maybe that's not correct. This seems correct, though. So fuck shit up. World changes. Okay? Ancient Kingdom era. Nika fruit user fuck shit up. World changes. Leads to good world. Up. But we get bad world. Leads to good world. Okay, let me pay attention to what you guys are saying now. Sorry, I had to just. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Let me catch up. Yeah, not playing games. Okay, I guess I'm caught up right now in supers. Pretty much, right? All right, let's get the stream likes up to 100. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Fading Faces, I don't think it's a cycle. It might not be a cycle. Let's see. Let's see what you guys in chat have to say. Okay. Control Z. I don't think you guys understand. The Control Z is what deleted everything before. The Control Z is what was deleting everything. So I don't know how to Control Z, because you press Control Z again, it just goes even further into reverse. So this is what it's looking like to me. So to me, I feel like we had... I don't know if there's two Joy Boy fruits or Nika fruits then. Because I don't feel like all I know is that the Ancient Kingdom era was good, right? The Ancient Kingdom era was good. It was implied to be a good state that then got fucked up, by other stuff, aka the Celestial Dragons, world government. Akash Panda says, it was Lunarian era, 0 to 600. Ancient Kingdom rose 900 years ago. Ancient Kingdom rose 900 years ago. Did Ancient Kingdom definitely rise 900 years ago? I forget. Let's see what this says. Okay, so if we're looking here, sometime before the 600, blah, blah, blah. Tata race, era of slaves, called devils by some, amass wealth and glory. Okay, so we had the era of slaves, 600, the void century, 600, 924 years ago. Sometime before this. I don't like the way this is done. Can I, I'm going to look at this shit. Is this a simpler way to look at it? 600, so, okay, so in the 600s, the century that would come to be known as the Void Century begins. This time period closes the era of slaves, but suffering of slaves continues across the world, okay? Thrive on top of the red line and settlement, blah, blah, blah. A certain immense kingdom thrives during this period. Okay, so the world wasn't destroyed during that period of time, right? Queen Narona Emu is born. So it doesn't seem like Emu's been around forever. So, okay. So if the world's been destroyed twice, right? If the world's been destroyed twice, and what we led to was an era of slaves, then maybe the world sucked initially. Hey, Harley, out. Maybe the world sucked initially because we didn't. This is incorrect then, right? This is incorrect. Okay, so Nika user fucks shit up, world changes, leads to a good world. That's actually incorrect because the Ancient Kingdom era is very, very short-lived. It's only about 100 years, right? So what leads to the Ancient Kingdom era? Is it the Lunarians' arrival? Because around here, Lunarians arrive, right? And then around here, the Ancient Kingdom gets set up together. So, Akash Panda says it was Lunarian era 0 to 600, but it seems like around here, sometime before the 700s. It just says sometime before. Fuck, this is hard to put together. What do you guys think? Yeah, I know the Nika fruit users don't have to be exactly 800 years apart, but... Oh, Control Y works and Control Shift Z? Okay, good to know. But I'm saying if there was cycles where a previous establishment was torn down, world was reset... Colossal Robot... What does the One Piece wiki say about the Lunarians? I don't love how Archer set everything up here. Where does it confirm when the Lunarians basically... It doesn't say for sure when the Lunarians came down. We don't have a confirmed date that the Lunarians came down then. We just know that the Lunarians... So where's Archer pulling this from? We just know that it was before the Celestial Dragons, right? We just know Archer is saying the Lunarians are seemingly a descendant of the Moonfolk. Okay. So, pre-Ancient Kingdom, Moon people come down. Pre-Ancient Kingdom, Moon people come down. Okay. We're going to do this again. This is stupid. We're just redoing the whole thing. Okay? We're redoing the whole thing. Here's the facts that we know. Only the facts, alright? I'm going to read the Era of Slaves thing again as well. Era of Slaves, sometime blah, blah, blah. Tell me, where is it stated that this is the Era of Slaves? Can someone tell me where it's stated the Era of Slaves? Akash Panis is just Archer's view. Yeah, so we're probably going to stop looking at this. We're going to go back to the world timeline. Era of... Where the fuck is the... So is there such a thing as the Era of Slaves? I don't know about this. I know the Tantatas were oppressed for a long time, but I don't know if it was worldwide known as an Era of Slaves. Growth Song 75. The Tontadas' enslavements were a key part in the lead up to the Void Century because chapter 1726, it was stated that they were enslaved for centuries. Yeah, but does it say that the whole world endured something like this? Come on, man. We gotta get to the bottom of this. It's taking too long to load. Let's see. Come on, Tontadas. Come on. What do you have for me? What do you have for me? It is said that we of the Tontada tribe, blah, 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 set out. To begin with, we suffered at the hands of the big humans who often discovered us, blah, blah, blah. The darkest age, the age of slavery. But this is just for the Tontadas. There's no age of slavery for everybody. Okay, alright, we're going to stay away from that timeline for the moment. Here's what we know. Alright, 1600 years ago. Oh, no, sorry. 1500-ish years ago. Sea circle calendar begins, right? We know that. 1600 years ago, sea circle calendar begins. 1500 to 6 or 900 years ago equals the age of shit happening. During said age, moon people came down, Lunarians lived on the red line, ancient kingdom formed. When specifically did the ancient... These are the things that we know, right? When specifically did the ancient kingdom form? Do we know it was 900 years ago? I thought it was a little bit before this. I don't think it's stated when... I don't think it's stated when the... Is it stated clearly where the ancient... when the ancient kingdom was created? Ancient kingdom existed. Right? I don't think it's stated straight up that ancient kingdom existed. Akash Panda says, Morj, Arthur noticed slavery in Tontadas and some other races during that time and dubbed it an era of slavery for everyone. Right, so I'm not going to call it an era of slavery for everyone. His timeline is more for theory than actual info. Yeah, I think we just got to go with things we actually know. Nika with a good point. The palace in Alabasta is set to 4,000 years of history, so there's definitely a far, far stretch of history before the Void Century. Okay. I just want to know things that are stated. We don't know when the Ancient Kingdom existed. Okay, so, with all the BS out of the way, not BS, I mean, I think the timeline is, like, fantastic in that it exists, but I'm saying, like, I was being misled, I think, by a lot of speculation, right? So, I think the goal of this is to figure out from the ground up. So, 1500 years, okay. So, we're kind of going back to what I felt before, right? There's a sea circle calendar era, right? During this time, moon people came down. It seems like things were shared. Possibly. Nah, I don't want to... Okay. Mother Flame and stuff like... The main thing we know is that this was an age of prosperity for some. World was in large continents, not yet flooded. Right? So, I personally feel like if the world has been destroyed once before, right? Then Void Century. Right? Void Century 900 to 800 years ago equals Void Century. World destroyed for second time. Right? World destroyed for second time. It's stated that Nika just comes during periods of change, right? He just comes during periods of change. So we can imagine that the previous time he came was the first time that the world was... Like, it's not necessarily attributing him as being the one who destroyed the world, because I doubt that's what happened in this case, but he's there during periods of change, is what is explained, right? So, considering... Also, we're nearly at 100 likes. Let's get it there real quick. Cadmus Gaming, thanks for your first super ever. Thanks for the 5. How come you think Emu isn't interesting and Blackbeard is? And what do you think Oda could do to make Emu a very interesting and better villain than Blackbeard? Emu's not interesting at the moment because we've barely seen him. It's hard to call him an interesting character. It's kind of just like we have seen so little of him that there's not much to work with there, right? There's just not much to work with there as a character just yet. We have almost nothing. I would also add a couple things. One being that generally the sort of evil overlord type characters in One Piece, they often feel more shallow compared to some of the pirate characters that we have, right? So, for example, a Wapol, an Enel, an Orochi, I think they tend to have less interesting storylines just because, or characterizations just because they're these all-powerful beings. You might say Doflamingo's an exception, but Doflamingo's an exception because he was a celestial dragon who was then forced to live basically as a commoner. And essentially he get, like, the reason so many pirate villains are interesting is because they come from rougher backgrounds that gives more wrinkles to their characters, right? Like a Blackbeard, like we know very little about Crocodile, but we get that there's a whole story behind him and that makes him a bit more compelling. Even an Arlong, even a Kaido, right? Like there's more to his story that makes him more layered than just being just a shitty dude, right? There's more to his story. He grew up the way he grew up, and even if you can call it a silly backstory, we did get wrinkles to his character leading up to it. Like he has a sense of honor, he has a sense of right and wrong, right? Even if it still leads to the death of many people, he has a philosophy that comes from somewhere that's not just like I'm the good guy and everybody else just sucks, right? Because for a lot of the way that Oda writes these overpowered overlord type characters, it's just inherently more shallow because they tend to come from a place of like, I'm just the king, and because I'm the king and because I'm so special and everybody else is not special, that's why I can do whatever I want, right? To me, that's just less interesting characterization, and they're all kind of copy-paste, just little variations on each other, whereas with you get what I'm saying, like the characters that are pirates that had to go through the roughness of life and the roughness of the world, they tend to come away with their own more unique philosophies. Even a Big Mom, right? Even a Big Mom, they just have a journey that they had to go through, right? And that's not to say that Imu might not have that. It's just that at the moment, in general, I feel like Oda has more of a track record of writing the evil overlord type characters in a more flat manner, one-dimensional manner than he does with the pirates, right? So that's number one. I don't think again, Doflamingo, the exception to the rule because he's one of those evil overlord type characters that was forced to go through a pirate's life, basically, right? So he's coming from both worlds, and that's why he's such an interesting villain. I don't know if Imu had to do something like that. We really don't know that much about Imu just yet, but at the moment, I just feel like one of these characters is Oda's strength at actually, character archetypes is one of Oda's strengths at actually writing a more layered villain, and then the other is meant to be almost more one-dimensional, almost a caricature, just a concept, like a very cartoonishly evil concept on purpose to basically just paint them as just pure evil that needs to be dethroned, right? So my feeling right now at the moment is that it's very possible that Imu will fall into that second category. I don't know yet, but Imu also hasn't given us that much at this moment in time to make us that interested in him being that unique. I also feel like, in general, stories having some sort of evil overlord, that's something that, you've seen in God knows how many stories for how long, right? It's almost outdated to have that sort of thing as your main villain. Not outdated, I'd say, but it's just, that's the classic, like, Palpatine, right? Like, what's more interesting, Palpatine or, like, Darth Vader? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just such a trope at this point that if I were to look at the other end of things, Blackbeard is this character that almost, he almost symbolizes what can make One Piece villains unique in the sense that he's very competent, but in a One Piece sort of way. Like, he's not this Aizen that's got everything in the palm of his hand or anything, and no disrespect to Aizen, I love that villain, but he's not that type of guy, right? He's the One Piece version of it, in that he's bumbling and comical in some ways, and he stumbles through plans, and he gambles, and he takes guesses, and sometimes they're bad guesses, but at the same time, he's still a smart gambler at the end of the day, and he trusts a lot of things to fate, and because he's got the balls to go for these things, a lot of times it pays off, and he opportunistically keeps moving himself up the ladder in a way that feels like a criminal mastermind, but like almost a human criminal mastermind. And a lot of the way Blackbeard talks and acts, it feels relatable to like Luffy's own journey and the idea of like trying to shoot for your dreams and everything. It's just the way that he's going about it it feels very like genuinely piratey in a way that often doesn't exist in One Piece, and just feels like the most perfectly fitting concept for a villain that would contrast a hero like Luffy in this story. And he feels like a villain that you don't really see in other stories in general, right? This sort of evil mastermind opportunist that at the same time is very, very flawed and human in the steps that he takes. And he makes so many mistakes, and he has to get lucky a lot, and he has to gamble a lot, and he gets caught on the back foot a lot, and he looks like an idiot a lot of the times. But he keeps on pushing and keeps on getting higher and higher in the world. I think Blackbeard is just a very unique villain concept. And I say all that, and we haven't even gotten to his actual past or anything like that just yet. So I feel like the real layers to his characters haven't been introduced yet. So I've got a lot of hope for Blackbeard. And thanks for your first super ever. I hope that was a good answer. And let me just pause real quick. Justin Camiller, thank you very much for your first super. Let me just shout out JWP real quick for gifting so many memberships again. Thank you, JWP, for coming through and gifting the good people of chat memberships as per usual. Manny, Red Yellow, Ty Smith, everybody said thanks to JWP. One day you could be the beneficiary, if you're in chat, of one of JWP's custom drive-by membership giftings. So God knows how many of you in chat have memberships thanks to JWP. Thank you very much, man, as usual. Justin Camiller, thanks for your first super ever. Thanks for the 10. Is it confirmed that Joy Boy awakened? Maybe he knew he had the Nika fruit, but he is sorry because he can't be the Nika they need. No new calendar because Nika really came, never really came. Nika is even myth to Gorosei. Well, the Gorosei has been established recently to not be as old as Emu, right? And that makes sense because even from the conversation among the revolutionaries, like Dragon, Sabo, and Ivankov, it was established that nobody in the One Piece world is viewed as immortal. The fact that they learned that there's somebody immortal is a shock to them. So that establishes that even among the Gorosei, all of them are known to be old, but not like ancient, right? So it seems like the Gorosei cycle every X number of centuries. For all we know, Saturn was the oldest Gorosei. And so maybe it was also just his time that it was like, okay, let's wrap it up. Let's get some fresh blood in there, you know? So it's not a surprise that the Gorosei don't know or haven't seen Nika, because it's been established that the Gorosei are not so old that the public views them as immortal. As for no new calendar, we do technically have the Heaven calendar that seemed to have started at some point here. And I'm going to add that in right now. Heaven. 800 years on equals Heaven. Heaven calendar begins. It's hard to say with the Heaven calendar because it seems like it's only referenced once in Alabasta when Robin's reading the poneglyphs. At the same time, it's interesting because the poneglyphs are created after the Void Century, right? So the dates that she's reading post on the poneglyph, right? The Heaven calendar, it would almost make sense that they are, because it's Void Century, so it's after this stuff happened. It almost makes sense that it's marking the new calendar cycle that comes from after the Void Century. Not confirmed yet, but it's a solid theory. Yeah, I know the poster fell. It fell some time ago. We're going to put that up in a bit. I'm on a roll at the moment. Joseph S., thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Blackbeard is one of, if not the most interesting characters. He's extremely bold and interesting, just like Luffy. He's my personal favorite character. I think Blackbeard is the most interesting villain that One Piece has. I don't think One Piece... I've said this before. I think One Piece doesn't have... One Piece has really good villains, but... It has very solid villains, I'll say. It has very solid villains. I don't think it has as iconic individual villains as a lot of other anime manga, because a lot of other anime manga tend to have villains that are overarching from the start of the story and are present, or their presence is present throughout a large number of arcs. Like Madara Uchiha, we've been fucking hearing about him for God knows how long, and so even if he wasn't present in many storylines, like just the name carries so much weight. Blackbeard, to be fair, we've heard about him quite a bit, but like he's been a rival figure to Luffy, so it doesn't have that same... Maybe Madara is a poor example. Aizen is a good example, right? Like an overarching villain for a long, long period of time. Sukuna, I wouldn't say Sukuna is better than One Piece villains, but like it's just so relevant throughout the entirety of that series' run. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think that One Piece, because it's so arc-based, it's harder for its villains to really to really have as much of an overarching influence on the story, because it's like they only get to be the villain for like a brief period of time, generally, before we move on to the next one. So I think Blackbeard has the opportunity to be an iconic villain just because he's a villain that has been in the story for so long. He just hasn't gotten his storyline just yet. I would also say that One Piece in general, I think a lot of stories tend to spend more time with a lot of other anime manga tend to spend more time with their villains and give villain scenes. I would say screen time wise, I think One Piece tends to focus on the protagonists more than we get to see the villains, even in any given story arc that features, the villains quite a bit. Like, I think those are probably the main reasons why I feel like we get a little bit less, I use Madarachi as an example. I'd say Orochimaru is a better example, where it's just a villain that's continually being the bad guy for a really, really long time, or All for One, or things like that. Like, again, not saying they're better than One Piece villains, but they might have more lasting impact culturally in the anime manga sphere just because they stick around for such a long period of time. Chrollo, Phantom Troop, Hisoka, things like that, Blackbeard has been a long-running villain, but he's in and out of the story. Like, you can go hundreds of chapters without ever seeing Blackbeard's face or even hearing his name, right? So, but I do think that he's been around for long enough that when it is finally time for him to shine, that he does have the potential to be One Piece's contribution to the iconic anime manga roster of villains, if that makes sense. Okay, so Heaven Calendar begins, Age of Celestial Dragons. Okay, so looking at this, to me it just follows that around here, theory, right? It follows that around here. I mean, this is not my theory. I'm saying this is things that have been talked about in chat. Akash Panda obviously threw out a lot of these things. Follows that around here. This is our speculation, let's say. Follows that around here. World was reset first time. Reason being, there doesn't seem to be a window anywhere here that, like, in this gap, in this period from 1500 all the way up to the Void Century, it doesn't seem like anywhere here there's some sort of huge world reset as far as we know. We know that the Ancient Kingdom existed during this time. We know that Lunarians were here during this time. We know Moon People came down during this window. None of these seemed like world resetting moments. None of these seem like world resetting moments, right? So 800 years ago. Yeah. So world was reset here the first time. I personally feel like first world reset was good. Kind of like giving world a new dawn. Reason being, the following era, this era, right? It sounds like it was a good era. Again, there was still like bad stuff that happens, like the Tontadas experienced slavery, right? But overall, the things that we learned, like Moon People came down to Earth, likely sharing of knowledge, etc. Lunarians living on Red Line. Doesn't sound like Lunarians were bad people or anything like that at that point in time. The biggest thing is that this was the period that the Ancient Kingdom existed. The Ancient Kingdom existed during this era, and so like the second reset really fucked things up. So my personal speculation would be that there might have been a bad era before this, and then the world was reset the first time. Then we get a new cycle. I feel like we get this new cycle where like now a dawn has been created for the world here, and then Emu, Celestial Dragons fuck that up. Nika tries to stop it, and so Nika is, again, there present as a force for change during this period of time. But in this case, he's not able to stop it, and so world is destroyed. But then this time, a bad era begins. I still feel like that's my current feeling. Just that part of the reason is that I feel that this is likely it was kind of a cycle that alternated between first time around, Nika was able to successfully reset the world to create a good era of the dawn, is just because it's been made to sound like the Ancient Kingdom era was overall a very positive era, right? Two, I think it would be weird if the world was reset twice, and both times Nika wasn't really successful in making a better world. Does that make sense? Because, like, if you had an era before this, imagine an era earlier than this, that really fucking, that was really good, and then some big war happened here, and Nika shows up, but then the world still goes to shit afterwards, and then that happens again here, big war happens, Nika shows up, but world goes to shit afterwards, then I don't know why the fuck the people of the world would believe in Nika, because this dude doesn't succeed at any point, you know? So I feel like the first time around, in my opinion, I feel like the first time around, Nika may have it may have been a Luffy-esque cycle, where there was a wielder of the Nika fruit, that birthed the dawn of a new world and created a really, really good world, right? And then I feel like this following cycle, Joy Boy was the wielder of the Nika fruit, and for whatever reason he failed against the Celestial Dragons, etc. And so then that led, even though Nika showed up, he was unsuccessful over the course of the war, and it led to world reset and now a bad era. That's what I'm feeling at the moment. How are you guys feeling about this? Growth Stonks, thanks for the 10. The Tontatas originated from Birka, chapters 726. They left their homeland long ago in search of new resources, which parallels what happened to Birka. They are the hidden race in chapter 470 NL cover story. It just parallels what happened to Birka, but that doesn't mean they're from the moon. They are the hidden race in chapter 470 NL cover story. Let me see chapter 470. What hidden race? You talking about this? These little guys? Shit. Hold on. Growth stonks. Shit, you guys think, are these the Tontatas? Is this like a known theory? I didn't know about that. These look like they could be Tontatas. Oh my god. Do you guys think these are Tontatas from the fucking moon? That would be crazy. I never even heard about that. Justin Camiller says, Morj, the Journal of Montblanc Nolan lists the current year as year 1120, so the Void Century 400 years ago then would not have made a new calendar, or am I missing something? I figure that's the Heaven calendar. Right? Wouldn't that be the Heaven calendar? The thing about the Heaven calendar is I don't know if that's supposed to be important in the story, because it's only mentioned here in Alabasta, and so it's hard to say how much was really thought out. I don't know how much Oda thought out about the calendars and everything like that in this period of time, or if he just needed Robin to have certain dates, you know? Yeah, is that a... Kosh Panda saying Heaven calendar has to be before Void Century, otherwise how would they be on poneglyphs? Heaven calendar has to be before Void Century. That's true, because you can't go backwards, obviously, in history. I think the Heaven calendar thing is throwing me a bit too much. I think Heaven calendar's throwing me a bit too much because it's like, is Heaven calendar mentioned anywhere else? Does anyone know? Is Heaven's calendar mentioned anywhere else? 02657, thanks for the 2. You didn't reply to my Lola member chat. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Let me catch up on supers real quick. Sorry about that. 02657, didn't mean to leave something out. Oh my god, they're dropping like flies right now. I'll take a break in a second and put some posters back up. If you want the posters, they're on the link at the top of this chat. So just hit that there. You can get all 4 for 50% off each, or you can get them individually. My personal favorite from this batch is Fishman Island. 02657, thanks for being a Pirate King tier. I'm sorry, 02657. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 18 months. I'm sorry about that, Ben. Thanks for the long-time support. I don't know if this was sad, but Lola went to Thriller Bark 5 years ago, which was after rejecting Loki. You said I don't know if this was sad. I read sad because it seemed sad to me. Loki went to Thriller Bark 5 years ago, which was after rejecting Loki. Holy shit. Did Loki just crash out that bad? He went on a rampage and was stalked by Shang 6 years ago. Is she why he wants to destroy the world? Fuck, we're gonna get Lola shit in Loki's backstory too. This is interesting. I wonder, was it ever established, did Lola go to... How did this go? Did Lola go to Elbaf then? Like, what? This is actually very interesting. This is very, very interesting. Loki's backstory is going to be a juicy one. I feel like he's set up to be a really, really great tragic character. No, I don't think that was mentioned. So, yeah, it would have been after Loki gets locked up. So maybe around that time frame. There's a lot of things. Okay, can't get too sidelined, but there's a lot of things to put together there. I wonder if we get to see Big Mom in Loki's backstory now. Like if there's some interaction there because the marriage proposal was around that time. Okay, continuing on. Let me see make sure I'm not missing any other things. I think we're good right now. Okay, we're gonna remove the heaven calendar real quick. We're gonna remove the heaven calendar discussion because it's just not helpful, it doesn't seem. Continuing on. Growth Song says, JWP, you're the GOAT. I've gotten so many memberships from you. Crashing out for Lola is wild. Hey, no, that just means it's true love. Just means it's true love. Okay. Yeah, I know she had the flashback, but I'm saying, like, does it take place on Elbaf, or does it take place, like do Loki and the Giants go and visit Whole Cake or something like that? Like, where is this happening? Or is this when Loki left the island? Yeah, what do you guys think about the Tantata thing? What do you guys think about this Tantata thing? Quickly about that. In the meantime, let me just answer this. Growthstonk says, Nika could be from a race of mythical giants, same as Onigashima. The 4 Zoan types parallel the races of giants with only the mythical class missing. So Nika being a giant... I mean, Nika being a giant honestly makes sense because the giants believe in Nika. Nika could be from a race of mythical giants, same as Onigashima. The thing is, they talk about ores. We still don't know how Onis play into things, because Onis seem very, very similar to... Like, it's almost like... I do wonder if at some point Oda's going to get into the nitty-gritty of this, because from what I can see, it feels like giants branch off into buccaneers in a sense, but also branch off into Onis, but it seems like Onis can branch... They seem like direct descendants of ancient giants, almost. It almost feels like Onis are to ancient giants what buccaneers are to regular giants. You know what I mean? But it seems from this that the giants themselves don't really classify ancient giants like Ors as being a totally different species. JWB, thanks for the 10. Part 1. I personally love One Piece villains, but Oda's specialty is writing larger-than-life good guys, not bad guys, particularly familial relations and father figures especially. Yeah, I think... Well, let me finish your part 2. JWP continues, thanks for the 5. Part 2, it maximizes his ability to make us feel for characters, which I don't think he wants to do with villains. Hopefully Blackbeard is different. I definitely agree. I think Oda's biggest strength with writing villains is honestly making them hateable. I think he's really good at making them hateable and making you really, really, really want to just see them get their ass kicked and just see a sense of justice and giving you that cathartic feeling of seeing Luffy or whichever good guy just teach the villain a lesson. And so in that sense, like, I don't need Arlong to be... Like, it's cool if Oda wants to make Arlong more nuanced down the line, like in Fishman Island. But in Arlong Park, that's not what I need. In Arlong Park, you almost want just a pure set of emotions of just really, really nasty, heartless, abusive character who does so much damage and trauma to this girl and her family, and then a hero stepping in and just delivering a fist of justice to this guy's face, basically. Crocodile, same thing. Like, it's cool that later on we learn more about maybe a bit of the nuances of his journey and why he wants to be like his own personal vendettas and what he's had to go through. We get some glimpses of that. But during the Alabaster arc, you just need him to be this cackling asshole of a piece of shit who's taunting our heroine protagonist, Vivi, who cares so much about her country and her people. He's just taunting her, fucking with her, and that just makes it all the more cathartic to see Luffy like fly in on Pell's back and just like beat the shit out of him, right? Like that chapter is literally called Hope because it instills you with so much hope because you hate this dude so much and it feels like nothing can be done to stop his plans, but it can. Like you just need to hope and believe enough in Luffy, right? So I think that's Oda's biggest strength. So he doesn't really usually intend to write really, really sympathetic villains. Even with Doflamingo's not a sympathetic villain. Because you get the parallel with Corazon, and it's like Corazon does not have the same reactions that Doflamingo does to what he's going through. Like, Doflamingo is an entitled piece of shit from birth, right? And then you just feed him more ammunition for his rage, and that's what he turns into. Gosh, Panda, thanks for the 5. Events from Heaven Calendar, years 200 to 300, describe what seems to be the origin of Alabasta. Alabasta began around 4,000 years ago. Age of Heaven began around 4,200 years ago. Okay, that's interesting. I guess it's not as relevant to this discussion, but that's a good point. Maybe that's the answer to the Age of Heaven thing. I think we can leave that aside for the moment. Tray number 7, thanks for the 5. I think the hidden race is Lunarians. That's why you can't see the wings on the cover page. But look at this little dude. It could be the Tentatas. This little dude right here. They're the robots. I guess I forgot what the robots look like. Don't the robots look like this? Maybe I forgot what the robots look like. Just robots that Anno later meets in the same cover story. I don't remember what the robots look like. I guess I can browse a little and see. Red Agritz's Kaido could have been a great sympathetic villain. I think Kaido was on the more in the full spectrum. I think Kaido was one of the more sympathetic villains that we've had. Orochi was, because Oda almost separated it, right? Orochi was the bigger asshole of the two, and the one more directly like Orochi was the Orochi was the cackling spandom type figure who was really just like, he really genuinely enjoyed inflicting pain and damage to the people of Wano. Kaido, the pain and damage that came with Kaido's stuff was just a consequence of his own mentality, which was, and what he grew up with, which was just conquering, right? Fighting, not conquering, but fighting, might makes right, etc. I don't think, Kaido wanted to break people's spirits, so that's definitely the case, and he had Queen torture people in Udon and everything like that. The more I think about it, Kaido's really not sympathetic, no matter how you look at it. But Kaido had flashes of honor, right? Everything about him came from a place of, like, honor as a warrior, in the sense that, like, he felt bad the way that they had to beat Odin. He didn't want to beat Luffy that same way. He believed that a lot of what he was doing would lead to change in terms of the world, right? He was going about it the wrong way. Kaido was close-ish to a sympathetic villain. He wasn't actually, but he was a more nuanced villain. And honestly, that's one of the reasons, because Kaido's written like that, that's one of the reasons that I personally didn't feel as much emotion during the Luffy-Kaido fight, because Luffy versus Kaido is the only time that you have Luffy and the villain literally giggling and laughing and having a good time during the fight itself. Because that just would never happen if Luffy's fighting, like you can have gags, like there's gags in other Luffy fights, but if Luffy's fighting Crocodile in the tomb, like in the crypt, like that's during Crocodile killing millions of people up above in the Civil War. Like Luffy, and after Crocodile's done so much stuff to Vivi, Luffy legitimately hates Crocodile in this moment. When Luffy's fighting Doflamingo, Doflamingo's in the middle of like trying to genocide everyone in Dressrosa. Like, Luffy legitimately hates Doflamingo during this battle. Luffy versus Kaido, Kaido's done a lot of bad things, but they're almost detached from the fight that's going on right now. And the prospect of Kaido killing a lot of people is a hypothetical that would happen if Luffy doesn't defeat Kaido right here, but it doesn't seem to really play into the emotions that either of them are really feeling during the fight. So that's one of the things I felt was kind of missing there, was just the emphasis on the antagonism between the two, because Kaido just wasn't really written like that, and the stakes of the fight weren't really written like that. But that's more to be talked about in the Wano video. Continuing on. Are you having fun, Kaido, says Under Anami? Goofy. Yeah, like, Luffy's not going to care about whether Crocodile's having fun or not when they're fighting in the crypt. Luffy just wants to beat the fuck out of Crocodile to save everybody, right? Luffy's not going to care about that, like, when Arlong's made Nami cry so much, you know? Or when, Doflamingo's carrying out the birdcage, or when, like, any of this stuff is happening in any of the more serious battles. But it's ultimately because Kaido's not written... Like, it's a variety of things, along with Luffy's character storyline not being as fleshed out in Wano as in other storylines, and with Kaido and his relationship, like, Kaido just never being built up to be that big of an asshole. Like, Orochi is... Like, Kaido is a big asshole, but it's just not played up as much as it is with other villains, right? And if anything, a lot of Kaido's more redeeming qualities are also played up in those in the final battle. Train number 7, thanks for the 5. I think the hidden race is Lunarians. That's why you can't see the wings on the cover page. Wait, did we cover that already? What do you mean the hidden race? What do you mean the hidden race? Too short to be Lunarians. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying this hidden race. These guys. No, I don't think these are Lunarians. They don't really seem like Lunarians. Maybe it's just Oda misdrawing something, but I think the Tontada theory is a good one. So Shouts was growth stonks, right? I think the Tontada theory is a good one. Luke De Ferdinando, thanks for the 2. What are the Elbaf matchups? Cool Usopp Snipe? Question mark. Cool Usopp Snipe. Cool Usopp Snipe. I think that you're saying, will we get a cool Usopp Snipe? I still feel like the Usopp sniping Sugar in Dressrosa is literally my favorite Dressrosa chapter. It's just it's something very rare that we get in One Piece, which is like a full-on chapter dedicated to an extended character moment that really takes us through everything that they're thinking and feeling. Really, really well-written chapter. Phenomenal for Usopp. I hope we get another Usopp moment like that in Elbaf. As for the matchups in Elbaf, I'm of two minds. I'm of two minds right now. I feel like it's possible. Here's the thing. Here, let me show you guys something. All right? Let me show you guys something. Just look up the One Piece storyline. Piece arcs. Here we go. Let me show you guys something. And I'll catch Falling Supers in a second. Alright? So, I'm starting to believe... Let me show you guys. Hold on. I know it's taking a little bit. I know I'm saying let me show you guys quite a bit, and it's taking some time. But here we go. Okay. So, if we look at the various sagas in One Piece, right? If we look at the various sagas in One Piece, the trend that we see is that what are the storylines where all the Straw Hats get a fight? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick, because we're almost there. What are the storylines where all the Straw Hats get a fight? Or at least the majority of the crew, right? The storylines where the majority of the crew get a fight are basically the conclusions to a saga. So, Arlong Park, right? That was the first storyline where it's like, okay, the whole crew is lined up. Pretty much everyone's getting a fight. Again, even in the everyone gets a fight, somebody or the other's often left out. That's just natural. I think there's no storyline that I can think of. Maybe Fishman. No, there's no storyline I can think of off the top of my head where every one of them gets a fight. But generally, like, a good bulk of the crew getting their solo fights, it happens at the end of a saga, right? So, like, in individual arcs, Oda will make sure that Luffy gets a fight and maybe one or two other crew members, maybe even 2 or 3 other crew members, but like a good chunk of them getting a fight that happens at the end of a saga. Same thing with Alabasta, right? Like, we have arcs where, like, Whiskey Peak, Zoro gets a fight, Luffy gets a fight, Little Garden, Usopp fights, Luffy fights, etc. Drum Island, we get Chopper, again, Luffy fight. But Alabasta is the one where, like, everybody gets a fight, right? Same thing with Skypiea. In the Skypiea saga itself is where everyone's getting their 1v1s. Enies Lobby, it's Enies Lobby itself, right? Thriller Bark's its own individual arc, you know what I'm saying? Marineford, we don't have to talk about. That's where everyone loses. But then Fishman Island, again, everyone gets their own fight in Fishman Island. In Dressrosa, so we have the build-up arcs, right? So Punk Hazard, Zoro gets a fight, Sanji gets a skirmish, Strats get skirmishes, but like real 1v1 fights, it's just Luffy and Zoro, like from start to finish, right? Luffy versus Caesar, Zoro versus Monet. Same thing in this huge saga that we just had. Like, Dressrosa's where they all, like, that's when you get Luffy gets a fight, Zoro versus Pika, Frankie versus Senior Pink, Usopp versus Sugar. Robin, I guess, doesn't really get one. She gets some hard participation points or whatever. But all the Strats that are at least on the island do get something. And then the Strad Grand Fleet all get fights, right? At least a lot more compared to Punk Hazard, right? So if you see the trend that I'm talking about, I'm basically saying that, like, Oda doesn't really, if a saga is going on, I've realized that Oda doesn't really give most of the Straw Hats real fights in the, like, extended fights in the build-up arcs, okay? And I realized that was really a serious thing when we got to the Versus 4 Emperors saga, right? So this is like a fucking big-ass saga, right? This is, I don't know why it's grouped separately here, but it shouldn't be. Whole Cake Island and Wano are one saga. I don't know why it's grouped like that. Why is it grouped like that? That's not correct. But this is supposed to be the Versus 4 Emperors saga. Whole Cake Island and Wano. And so, just looking at that, like, Zoe, nobody really gets a fight. Whole Cake Island, which is a very, very big arc. Even then, only Luffy gets an extended fight against Katakuri. It's not until Wano that all the Strats get a fight. And then now we're in the final saga. So now we're in the final saga. Egghead, again, it's just Luffy who got a real fight in Egghead. Zoro got a minor fight as well. I think Zoro often, like, sometimes Strats will get fights, right? But what we're looking for here is another arc or storyline where all the Strats are getting big fights, right? I feel like because Elbaf is just another build-up arc, Elbaf's going to be a very important arc, but I wouldn't be surprised, because this isn't the climax of the final saga, I think we might have to wait till the climax, like the final arc of the final saga, if that's like a giant battle royale in Laugh Tale, or if that's like a giant battle royale at Marijua, whatever it may be. I think we might have to wait till that arc for all the Strats to be getting fights. I know I'm rambling a little bit, and I think it would be better if I had certain visuals, but does it make sense? You see what I'm saying? Like, what are the arcs where we have the big showdowns, right? The arcs where the big showdowns are conclusions to sagas, generally speaking. And if it's an arc that's earlier in a saga, like setting up for the conclusion for the saga, Oda doesn't really take the time to give everybody fights. It's only Luffy that's consistently getting fights. Zoro somewhat consistently gets fights. Everybody else, they might get scraps here or there. But it really does. You really got to get to the end of a saga before everyone's getting a fight. Now, it's the final arc, or final saga, so maybe there's an exception, and maybe Elbaf will be a battle-heavy arc for the Straw Hats. But I'm looking at Egghead, and I'm like, man, Egghead seemed like a gigantic... Like, Egghead is the 4th longest arc in the story. It had so many matchup possibilities for Straw Hats. Like, you had 5 Gorosei on the island. You had CP0, multiple CP0 members. You had Kizaru. You had so many Vice Admirals. You had so many opportunities for matchups. And all we got was, like, We got Luffy, several fights, and then Zoro gets a half-assed fight against Lucci, and then that's it, right? So I'm not confident that Elbaf is going to have a bunch of matchups anymore, especially now that I'm thinking about it. I'm just like, if the main villains are the Gods Knights, would Oda really have the Gods Knights all just go down here in Elbaf? So it might ultimately be more of a showcase arc again, kind of like Egghead. I think Luffy will get an important fight. I think Usopp will probably get an important fight. I think Zoro often gets some stuff, so Zoro might get something, right? I think a lot of the Strats may get skirmishes, like we might get a lot of showcases of how strong the Gods Knights are. I think if the red-haired pirates show up, we could see some solid competition between the Strats and the red-haired pirates, but I don't think we'll see straight up like 9 Straw Hat fights or something like that, or everybody getting a matchup. I don't think it's going to be another Wano situation. Especially because I feel like Elbaf is set to end around chapter 1200. I think that the final war, like whatever the arc is after this, be that Laugh Tale, Marijo, whatever, I think that's where we're set to get something really, really climactic with all the Strats getting something. That's my feeling right now. I'm trying to be more reserved with it. I think Elbaf will be a huge arc and a really important arc, like probably Egghead, but even more. But I don't think it's set to be something where all the Strats are getting something. You know what I'm saying? Because I just don't think the Gods Knights will necessarily be defeated this arc. Like if they do, that'd be really cool. But I wouldn't be surprised if Oda saving a lot of them for the final war. So it's really hard to find, like the red-haired pirates aren't going to lose to the Strats right here, right? They'll probably give them a good competition or something if they show up. But I think I'm not surprised if it's something like Whole Cake where, yeah, we get a good fight for Luffy, maybe some good matchups for other Strats, a little bit, but like skirmishes more than anything. Maybe a good fight for Usopp should happen, and maybe something for Zoro because Oda tends to do that with Zoro. But besides that, I don't know. So I don't know if that's raining on people's parade, but that's just the feeling that I've gotten so far, or I'm getting at the moment. Because heading into the arc, I was just like, oh boy, I'm so excited for a bunch of matchups. But now I'm thinking that it might not be likely. Okay. If you guys disagree with that, that's all good, because that would make it, that would make it more exciting. But I think Elbaf can still be a really exciting arc without it ending with some huge climactic battles for all the Straw Hats. 02657, thanks for the 10. Loki's view of Nika changed after his heartbreak. He was mischievous to inspire laughter, but then switched to the god of destruction version when his heart broke. That's what he talks about pain. That would be really, really funny if that's the case. If Lola caused all of this shit. And Loki changed his whole worldview because of that. It would be like an Obito situation, but just way funnier. It's like, ever since Obito couldn't have... not the same, but it's just like... it's just the One Piece version of it. It would be really funny. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Stormfox, thanks for the 2. No. I'm missing something. Hold on. That's what he talks about, pain. Yeah. Like, I think that'd be really cool if that was a trigger for a lot of things. And that changed Loki's personality quite a bit. B, thanks for the 2. Kaido was about to drop an island on the capital, though. He was, but a lot of how stakes work and how tone and tension works is basically how is it communicated through the characters, right? So in general, if you're reading Dressrosa, then what's happening during Luffy versus Doflamingo is lots of shots of like the citizens yelling, screaming in fear, anguish, etc. That starts actually from the moment the birdcage begins, like chapter 745-ish. There's like chapters devoted to showcasing like how in terror the citizens of the island are and like how serious the situation is and how desperate they are. There's a whole chapter dedicated to Riku's speech, to getting everybody like telling all the citizens to stand up and fight to survive. You get so many shots of everyone just like desperately pushing back the birdcage, etc. The terror of the birdcage was palpable. With Wano, you know what was happening? While the capital was coming over to drop on the people of Wano, you know what was happening? They were having a festival. They were lighting some paper lanterns. They didn't even fucking know anything bad was happening. They literally thought today was a good day. They were having a good evening. They never knew Onigashima was approaching. And the funny thing is, for almost the entirety of the Onigashima battle, nobody in Onigashima even knew that the capital was going to fall. They didn't know. Yamato and Momonosuke were the ones who were aware of it, and they were the ones talking about it, but then it's just 2 characters talking about it amongst like everything else happening. The rest of the raid was basically just like, fuck yeah, we're beating the Beast Pirates with like CP0 like fucking playing their fucking Go and talking to the entire time about like, alright, so the Beast Pirates just lost these members, but maybe they could still win. Alright, so the Beast Pirates just lost all their officers, but maybe the Beast Pirates still have a chance. Alright, so now it's just Kaido and Big Mom, so everyone's pretty much fucked, but you know, maybe they still pull through. Like, there was no sense of urgency throughout that whole thing. The raid's momentum and general tone was very, very, very positive for everybody in Onigashima. The fact that Onigashima was going to fall, nobody was aware of till the very end. The fact that the fucking demon fire thing was going to blow up the bombs, nobody knew till the very end. Or nobody ever found out. That was just a Yamato thing. Only Yamato knew. And the fact that the Flower Capital was even in danger whatsoever, like Onigashima was heading towards it, I'm pretty sure only the fucking, like the villagers never found out. So... I think that's Kanbest's bro saved for the video that's ever coming. So it's actually like the direct opposite of that scenario, which is exactly what, like, put it this way, like if there are people in pain and dying and like struggling to survive, then you can't have a Luffy versus Kaido fight that has Luffy smiling and laughing and saying he's having fun, right? Because the stakes are so dire and desperate amongst the people he's fighting for. But Oda made the tone very light and positive throughout the raid. He just set things up such that when Luffy's saying, "Isn't this fun, Kaido?" it kind of matches the tone of what everybody else is experiencing. They're having the time of their lives kicking the Beast Pirate's ass. So then you've got a very positive energy for the fight, but not a high-stakes one. Or not a very high-tension one, not a very dramatic one. Anyway, continuing on. Lemon Play says, who was about to beat Kaido except Gear 5th Luffy? Yeah, so there's the threat that if Kaido isn't defeated, then bad things happen, right? The threat is very hypothetical, right? It's like, if this doesn't happen, then something bad will happen to us, right? Hypothetically, right? That's very different from the birdcage literally constricting everybody and people desperately, like, physically struggling to survive and in terror in the moment, while Luffy's struggling to fight Doflamingo, right? We had something similar finally happen when, in chapter 1043, when Kaido seemingly finally defeats Luffy. And then we finally have one half chapter of real tension where it's like, okay, now the consequences are actually scaring the people of the raid. Because Kaido comes down and he's like, I defeated Luffy, what's up now? You all are screwed. That's the one moment where everyone feels fear. Up till then, there's nothing that's actually happening outside of positive domino after positive domino that makes the people who are executing the raid feel like things are going in their favor. Because remember, throughout this entire time, they already believe that Luffy's going to beat Kaido. They literally yell it multiple times, Luffy's going to beat Kaido, right? So in their minds, that's checked off. Luffy's beating Kaido. So they're just focusing on fighting the Beast Pirates, and they keep winning against the Beast Pirates. So it's just a continuing wave of positive momentum. Again, the flip side would be something like Alabasta, where like the people of Alabasta are dying left and right, and the civil war is happening, and like the worst case scenario is happening, and everyone's dying, and it seems very hopeless, right? The situation is very bad because there is no sense of positivity throughout it, right? The worst case scenario is already happening. Birdcage, worst case scenario is already happening, right? Like the consequences are already taking place. With Luffy versus Kaido, it's just like, we already believe Luffy's going to beat Kaido, so that's not going to be a problem. We're already kicking the Beast Pirates' ass here, so that's not a problem. Fucking CP0 is narrating how bad things are going for the Beast Pirates throughout the battle. The potential consequences, most people aren't even aware of, because no one knows about that fire thing that's going to blow up the bombs, except Yamato. And nobody fucking knows, the people of Flower Capital don't even fucking see Onigashima approaching. So all the points of potential tension that Oda could have had, he chose to remove and detach as much as possible from the people who, from the protagonist side, right? Like, when Luffy's fighting Arlong, it's all happening in front of everybody. So people can feel the ebbs and flows of the fight, and they know that if Arlong beats Luffy right here, they will all die. There's literally a chapter called Will You Die With Me, which has a very dramatic scene. With the raid, Luffy versus Kaido is happening upstairs. So they don't know what's happening there. They just know that Luffy's going to win. They're all literally go into it believing that Luffy's going to win, and they talk about how Luffy's going to win throughout it. So to them, there's no tension there. They're just assuming Luffy's going to win, right? And then again, with Onigashima following, they don't really know about that. Explosives blowing up, they don't really know about that. There's nothing happening that's bad for them throughout the entire raid until 1043. So then you get one chapter of actually, good climactic writing. Anyway. Eric's saying, we still doing this, bro? I don't bring this up unprompted. This was a question. It's a super chat that's brought up to me. I'm going to respond to that. Stormfox, thanks for the 2. I still stand by the Ancient Kingdom not being good. I don't know if there's anything that indicates the Ancient Kingdom's not good, because then it's just like, Oda usually doesn't do it like that. Like, obviously Oda can always break patterns, but Oda's preferred writing style tends to be good, positive ruling power that's then dethroned by evil power, which leads to a negatively portrayed government for some period of time that now needs to be overthrown again, right? That's generally how Oda likes to do things, right? Drum Kingdom was good until Dalton took over. Dressrosa was good with King Riku and shit till Doflamingo took over. Wano was like a paradise land. Like, Yasue literally gives an extended speech about how beautiful and wonderful Wano was for so long until Orochi took over, right? There might be some flaws with it, like Shogun Sukiyaki's rule wasn't perfect. But overall, like, Wano was portrayed as a good, like, Oda, if it was a different story by a different author, then maybe there'd be some more nuance. But, like, I feel like Oda's preferred writing style tends to be like Kokoyashi Village. Nice village, but then Arlong took over, right? What else? Skypiea. Gonfall seemed to... Gonfall was, like, considered a good god. Like, he was a good guy until fucking Enel took over, right? There's imperfections, obviously. Skypiea is a good example of imperfections because... the Chandrans didn't have their land, but generally speaking, that doesn't mean that Gonfall was a bad guy or whatever, right? Like, generally speaking, Oda likes to keep it more good guy rulers, good guy situation or whatever, and then something bad happens and a bad guy takes over, right? Like Alabasta, good kingdom, but then nasty old crocodiles almost takes over, That's just the way Oda tends to write. Because again, I feel like Oda tends to write for feeling of catharsis and good versus evil, like good triumphing over evil. So, I don't know, just something to think about. That's why I'm just going to err on the side of, like, Ancient Kingdom was probably overall good, and was probably overall a good era that Emu and the Celestial Dragons fucked up. But there might be more nuance to it, but I don't know if we've got it just yet. I don't know if there's enough evidence that I would jump on that just yet. The one piece of evidence I would say in favor for that, if I had to point out to anything, was that the Joy Boy was considered a pirate, right? And Joy Boy, we can guess, was a good guy overall. So if the Ancient Kingdom dubbed him a pirate, then most likely they were a little backwards in some views. However, at the same time, I don't know if that means that Joy Boy was, like, heavily hated or persecuted, because you can look... I imagine Joy Boy's story to be a little bit similar to Odin's in that, like, Wano was overall a good country, but it had some stick-in-the-mud type rules, so it's like, you can't leave Wano, we have rules about that, and then Odin left, so then he became dubbed the first pirate from Wano. But that didn't mean that Wano sucked. It just meant that, it was not the friendliest towards more rebellious personalities, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the Ancient Kingdom was overall pretty good, but Joy Boy just viewed it as a bit cramped, like Odin did, and so he became the first pirate. Like, he left its borders and did his own thing and maybe broke some of its rules. At the end of the day, Joy Boy fought on the side of the Ancient Kingdom. At least that's what Vegapunk tells us. He fought on the side of the Ancient Kingdom, so I imagine the Ancient Kingdom was overall supposed to be the good guy's side and all of that. Henchme976 says, if we paste together all the Morj Wano rants, maybe we'll have attained the mythic Wano analysis. That's a good way to do it. Dick so small I piss on the walls. Thanks for the 5. Interesting to me that the yellow orb in that cover page resembles Sanji's eyebrows because of the SBS Volume 7. What the hell? Yellow orb in that cover page represents Sanji's. I don't even know what to get into here. This yellow orb or this yellow orb? I don't even know what to get into here. SBS Volume 7? Let's see. What are you talking about here? Oh, I missed the SBS button. link. Let's see. Sanji. Why does Sanji's eyebrow curl up at the end? Is it for fashion? Make it clear. Everyone lives in circles. The sun, the moon, and the earth all spin in circles. If the earth suddenly stopped spinning, the planet would be covered in tidal waves. It would be terrible. Now remember that Sanji's eyebrow channels that same powerful circular energy. Reflect on this, you may go. Alright, I view that as an Oda troll joke, but it is kind of funny. Fake Lidscoff, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 12 months, man. Thanks for the long support. 1 year PBG, OP lore inspired by Bible, especially with Kuma, EH, devil ruling the world, and the reason why the world is in shambles. 1, John's 5:19, but then God in One Piece Nika will destroy the bad kingdom, Dan 2:44. Then you continue on with, I guess you're continuing on somewhere. Where are you continuing on? You said that's 1 out of 2. Let me see if I can catch your next comment. I don't know enough about the Bible to really speak on it. I do know that there's a lot of inspiration from there. Okay, Fake Linscop, thanks for the 5. Continuing, New Kingdom after world government stops sickness, Chopper. Isaiah 33:24 stops hunger, what Luffy said, and bring world peace, Vegapunk, ends racism, Jinbei, Rev 24, 21-21:4-5. I don't know enough about the Bible, but if all of that is in there, that is very, very interesting that Oda took such heavy inspiration in terms of like how to create the ideal world. I don't know what Oda's religion is. I wouldn't be surprised if he was Christian, just because there's that much inspiration, but he does seem to like to draw from a little bit from here and there and everywhere. Eric Gelato, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. Who is the finale boss in Elbaf? I don't think it's Holy Knights. They seem very passive and not there for Luffy. Maybe Loki, Nika versus Nika. I don't think Loki's going to be... I wouldn't be surprised if Luffy ends up fighting Loki a little bit just to showcase Loki's powers or we get something like that, but I don't think Loki is written at the moment, to me, to be like a true bad guy type character. I said this before, but I feel like the Holy Knights, if they're being saved for... If overall they're being saved... Like, so what I was talking about before this, right? Before this I was talking about how generally Oda saves the big, large-scale battles with many characters for the finale of sagas. So I feel like Oda really may be saving the final saga for just a lot of different matchups. Like, all the different matchups. So I feel like the various pieces that he's got, meaning the 4 Emperors, the God's Knights, the Gorosei, the Seraphim, I would not be surprised if we have to wait till the final saga to really see all of them get the revolutionaries, obviously. I feel like it's possible that we're in the final saga, the final battle, like the final epic war. Let's say, I think we might have to wait for the final war for all of those parties to get their full-on matchups where everybody goes down. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't be surprised if this arc is used to, similar to how the Gorosei were in Egghead, right? The Gorosei were in Egghead. They were established in Egghead. We got to understand them as villains. We got to see kind of how strong they are, stuff like that. But they weren't used, none of them were defeated except Saturn, right? And Saturn was the weakest link, and it was really to replace Saturn with a stronger version, Garland Garling, right? I would not be surprised if something similar here, where we get a showcase for the God's Knights in Elbaf, hopefully more impressive than the Gorosei. If we get a showcase for them, if we get a lot of skirmishes, if we get to see Luffy square off against some of them, Strahd square off against some of them, just give us an idea of roughly how strong they are. And then they get tabled for the final war. And then that way we're heading into the final war with an understanding of, okay, Gorosei are like this level threats, Admirals we kind of know, assuming some Admirals stay around. God's Knights, Seraphim, right, like Blackbeard Pirates, like we've got all these parties, and then Oda has them go at it there. I don't know if Oda wants to take too many of his pieces off the board just yet. So, finale boss in Elbaf, I'm sticking to the possibility that because it seemed to have been hinted at back in the beginning of Elbaf that there's something bad about staying in Elbaf too long, I feel like there may be a problem in Heaven's Realm that we have yet to discover. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if the red-haired pirates make for some friendly competition for the Strats in Elbaf, and like Luffy versus Shanks or something, maybe. I don't know. There's too many possibilities in Elbaf at the moment, because I think at the moment it's not set to be an arc. I'm sure it'll have fights, but I don't think it'll be set to be an arc where like all the Strats get fights throughout it, and like it's set to just really take down one giant group of bad guys, like the God's Knights or something. I'm not sure. If it is, that's exciting, but I'm gonna be tentative in my predictions for that, you know? What's the word? Not tentative, modest in my predictions. What's the word? There's a word. What's the word? It's frustrating when I can't think of a certain word that properly describes it. I'm gonna be like Thank you. Fuck. What's the word? Moderate, modest. I kind of want to look up the synonym. It's annoying. Let me see. Maybe there's not a word. Man, let me try this. Modest, middling, no. Careful, no. Restrained. Maybe there just isn't a word that I'm specifically thinking of. Maybe I just think there's a word. Let me try one more time. Try tentative synonym. Cautious. I don't know. You guys think of anything? Cautious might be it. Conservative. Conservative. There we go. That was bothering me. I'm going to be conservative in my predictions. Don't know why that didn't pop up on who figured it out. Smile. Thanks. Smile and Jason, you guys were on the right page. Anyway, I want to be conservative in my predictions with that. That was annoying. Okay. No, not conservative like that. Oh, okay. Okay. Continuing on. Dick so small, piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Nothing happens to the samurai after chapter of them dying to the wounds, the fire, Queen's virus, the enemies, Bolobretz, etc. is crazy work. Again, it's just overall tone. It's just overall tone. I think it's not worth arguing about this over here. I think once the video's out, you can see. I don't think I ever said nothing happens to the samurai. So you can call me incorrect if you changed what I'm saying, right? I never said nothing happens to the samurai. I say specifically what is the overall tone and attitude that they have throughout the raid, right? The overall tone and attitude is overwhelmingly positive. I didn't say that they don't have any like challenges or things that they have to get through, but overall throughout it, they're very, very positive about their chances. They don't view anything as a significant setback. They regularly chant, "We're going to win. Luffy's going to win. Luffy's going to beat Kaido. It's obvious we're going to win. I can't imagine losing." These are all direct quotes that are repeated. We're beating the Beast Pirates. These are all direct quotes that are repeated ad nauseum throughout the raid. That is not the case for example, Dressrosa and the Birdcage, the Alabasta Civil War, Arlong Park's final battle. They're not repeatedly chanting how positive and optimistic they are about the situation. They do talk about how they believe that they can like overcome these things, but the overall air is not that it's obvious that they're going to get through these things or the situations aren't severely affecting their morale. Very, very, very different. It's just confusing, basically, like, technically can you find things that, like, I think it's great that bad things happened over the course of the raid. Now, where the effective drama comes in is how do the characters tend to react? Like, how does this affect them emotionally overall and their overall attitude towards the conflict that they're in, right? Because otherwise, you could just have events take place that don't actually result in dramatic writing, right? You got the plot event, like Queen's Virus or something. How does that lead to an extreme effect on the overall tone of the raid, right? If it doesn't lead to anything that dramatically affects the tone, then it's inconsequential to the sense of tension, suspense, etc. You know? Anyway, continuing on. Fake Lind, thanks for the 5. New Kingdom after world government stops sickness. Chopper. Isaiah 33:24 stops hunger. No, we covered this. This is your second half of your comment. Souse, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 17 months. Yo, Morj, how's life, man? First of all, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for so long, and life is going good. Thank you very much. Hope your life is going good as well. Thanks for the support, man. 02657, thanks for the 5. I agree that the Ancient Kingdom was evil. Oh, I don't think I said it's evil, but to some, based on their perspective and relationship with them. Perspective plays a big role in the story. That's true. That's true. I still am of the perspective that, like I'm personally of the perspective that I imagine the Ancient Kingdom was overall a solid civilization, probably imperfect in some ways, but I imagine it was kind of like Wano and Odin's relationship. Like Joy Boy to Wano was Joy Boy to Ancient Kingdom was kind of like Odin to Wano, in that he was part of a kingdom that was overall kind of utopic, had its flaws, had some of its backwards rules or whatever, but overall was a good kingdom that he then had to fight to defend, that then got overthrown, that then turned into basically the dictatorship that we have now. 02657, thanks for the 2. That's why 20 kingdoms aligned to bring them down. I personally feel that the 20 kingdom situation was manipulation, right? Because we know how Emu likely works, which is manipulative. We know how the Celestial Dragons, like, the world government's MO is basically lie and manipulate, right? So my feeling, if we had to speculate right now, my feeling is basically Ancient Kingdom was good, but a very, very strong kingdom, right? The strongest kingdom. Generally speaking, in One Piece, we've had a few of these bad guy takeovers in the past, right? These bad guy takeovers tend to be predicated on manipulating events to falsely portray the previous good ruler in a negative light, right? So they frame them for something. So, for example, in Alabasta, Crocodile, right? Let's say Crocodile takes the role of Emu in this situation. Great Kingdom of Alabasta, Crocodile wants to take it over. He manipulates the optics to make it seem as though Alabasta is evil, and the royal family is misusing its power, right? Using rain dance powder, etc. And ultimately, he frames the king for something the king didn't do, and that causes tensions to boil over, and everybody declares the royal family of Alabasta to be evil and takes them down, right? Dressrosa is something very similar. Riku's a good guy. Doflamingo, symbolic of Emu in this situation, manipulates the optics to make it seem as though Riku's a bad guy. The kingdom turns against him. He gets taken down, right? Now, obviously, you could say, well, the Ancient Kingdom was attacked from the outside, but while that's true, I feel like the analogy still fits in that Oda's generally going to do storylines island by island, right? He doesn't tell storylines where one island's nation then has to be got overthrown by like 20 island nations or whatever, right? The concept tends to remain the same, wherein these revolutions where evil powers take hold and portray themselves as the good guys, those tend to only happen through manipulating what others see, right? So even the good citizens of Dressrosa who previously thought really highly of King Riku ultimately believe that he's a bad guy that has to be taken down, right? You can even look in Alabasta, right? Like Koza straight up began to doubt the royal family, even though he knew them from growing up, and he turned against them, right? I personally feel like the fact that Lily changed her mind and sided with Joy Boy in the end and betrayed Emu suggests to me that she learned the truth about the deception that had taken place and realized what she'd done and what she'd participated in, and then that triggered her to fight against Emu at the very end and spread the poneglyphs, in my opinion. 02657, thanks for 2. That's why the 20 kingdoms allied to bring them down. Yeah. I think we talked about that. 02657, thanks for the 10. Perspective plays a big role throughout the story. It's why the giants have differing views of Nika, because he was about liberation, destruction, or laughter, depending on who you were to him. I agree. But Oda tends to portray, like, there is ultimately... Like, he does ultimately tend to have, like, one correct light to place characters in. Like... A lot of people view Roger as a good guy or a bad guy, but then at the end of the day, as we get to know Roger, we get to know, okay, he is actually a good guy. Like, he's a good guy character the way he's portrayed. Odin has all this negative reputation around him, but then the more we learn about Odin, it's kind of like, okay, he's supposed to be portrayed as a good character overall. It's just that the reputation that's built up around him is based on a lot of misleading perspectives on events, right? So, yeah, 02657, or the D's being devils to some. Yeah, exactly. Like, a lot of it is basically just like how things are framed or portrayed over time. All right. We are gonna. Okay. So let's take a look here. What do you guys feel in this scenario? Okay, because if the world is reset twice, I feel like the first reset had to have happened around here, right? Prior to this era. I feel like the first reset had to have happened around here. A lot of the interesting things related to the One Piece world happened in this era, between Void Century and First World Reset, because in this era we had the Moon People come down, Lunarians living on the Red Line, Ancient Kingdom, world in large continents, right? Maybe that was already the case before, etc., but a lot of the juicy stuff that we know was in this era. I feel like the reputation that Nika that Nika can be a good source of change also had to have come from the First World Reset, because otherwise, if the world goes to shit after every time Nika shows up, then that doesn't really follow with what the Giants are talking about, wherein they seem to believe that, like, oh, it can be open to interpretation. I feel like the first reset led to negative things, and then the second reset, the first reset led to good things, and the second reset led to negative things, which has led to a mixed perception on what Nika can really mean. And I feel like it's set to cycle back one final time, with Luffy's reset of the world basically turning it, bringing the New Dawn again, similar to how the first reset went. That's my perspective right now. How do you guys feel about that? Akash says, Roger's a crew killer just like Kaido. He killed Squarto's crew. Right, but we all understand that Oda is at no point in the story trying to imply that Roger and Kaido are similarly evil pirates. In fact, Kaido himself makes that distinction pretty clear, where he's just like, what is it? Instead, you chose a method that would not hurt anyone. Newgate and Roger were like that too. Mighty pirates, but soft in their own way. Like, this isn't Hunter x Hunter or something like that. Like, Oda ultimately, like, there's some characters that he likes to do morally gray, but generally his preference is like at the end of the day, Luffy is a good guy. Like, he does certain things, like, you could argue, like, well, he released those prisoners at Impel Down. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, what's being communicated to the reader is that Luffy, at his heart, is a kind-hearted soul who ultimately does things for the sake of others when he sees it. He doesn't go out and about declaring himself a hero and going out of his way to save people's lives, but it's communicated over and over that Luffy has a good heart, and we're supposed to understand that he is a very, very kind-hearted, pure individual at its core, right? Roger, I'm sure he's done certain things over the course of, like, the many battles that he's had, and he's not, like, left zero marks or whatever, but Oda's very black. Like, Whitebeard, good character. Shanks, good guy character, right? Luffy, good guy character. Kaido, bad guy character. Big Mom, bad guy. Blackbeard, bad guy. Like, Oda's not he's not trying to really make you question or think, like, wait, did the good guy really win, or was it actually the bad guy? It's like, good and evil. Oda likes good and evil at the end of the day. He does get a little bit morally more complex with certain characters, like, where's Aokiji's story going right now? Where's Kizaru's story going right now? But, interestingly, those characters tend to be part of the Marines, right? Even Loki, we don't yet know about Loki, but I have a feeling that with Loki, we are ultimately going to learn it's going to be more reputation-based, and that while Loki did do a lot of bad pranks or whatever, he most likely did not kill his father, King Harold. Ebboy says, I think maybe Luffy's reset will be more neutral like Dressrosa, bringing everything back to zero. Yeah, like, I think Luffy, but the type of Dawn that will be created won't be like a Blackbeard type of world, right? Luffy will have reset the world by defeating the bad guys, etc. Luffy's usually never responsible for, like, reshaping the world in a good light, but there's a fundamental difference between, like, Luffy's type of reset versus what's implied is Blackbeard's type of reset. So liberation, destruction. There's a lot to get into there. I'm gonna save a lot of my thoughts for a couple upcoming videos, because this has given me a lot to chew on. But this is how I feel at the moment. Now I need to take some time, do a bit more private research, kind of, and just think a little bit about this. I've also got a bit of a theory about like the different types of sun god fruits, because I do feel like there's at least 2 and possibly 3, but I don't know. All right, everybody. All right. Let me check if I'm missing any supers at the moment. I don't think so. Let me double check. I think we're good on supers. Yeah, I think we're good at the moment. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This was a productive stream. I'm very excited for 1137, and it sounds like we're getting another week of chapters after this. So we're getting finally 3 weeks in a row of chapters after a little bit. So good month to be a One Piece fan. And yeah, I will talk to you all later.